Hello everyone, this is just a quick overview of my Tamiya TT-02B Neo Scorcher. I did originally build this completely stock. It didn't stay stock for very long. I pretty quickly decided in madness to put in a Castle Creations 5700 kilovolt motor with a Mamba Max Pro speed controller. And well, that kind of changed things up a little. So just to give you an overview of the changes I've made to this this kit, the mods I've used. On the suspension and chassis side, it's the kit springs and dampers. I don't see any reason to change those. They're pretty good. I've upgraded to the Square Racing carbon fiber shock mounts. The front one's not really necessary, that's more for looks, but the rear one, if you've got a TT-02B with a stock suspension mount at the back, it compresses suspension and you'll see the flex. There's a considerable amount of flex there. I've got the Tamiya steering setup, which is really essential. There's a fair bit of play in the stock kit. I consider that an essential upgrade. The turnbuckles is the other thing I've got there. I've got aluminium hubs at the rear there, not really necessary, but I'll explain how that came about shortly. A powertrain, as I said, is a Castle Creations motor and speed controller. I ran that on 2S lipo. I haven't run a 3S lipo yet. I can. But it's fast enough as it is, and I'm not quite sure what damage it would do, but we'll see. We'll try it one day. I've got the Tamiya cooling fin there. It doesn't quite sit properly on the Castle Creations motor, but it's better than nothing. One of the things I've got there, so you can see the blue. It's a Yeah Racing motor mount, and I've got one here. As you can see, it actually allows you to adjust the motor there, so you can fit any pinion spur gear combo you like within reason. The other thing I've got in here, if we can get this off, is the Tamiya high speed spur gear set. That just basically allows you to fit any spur gear you like, as long as you can mount it to this little plate here. Better than the stock kit. It means you don't have to buy the stock parts. You can use any spur gear. As you can see from here, this is not stock pinion. This is a 34 tooth steel pinion, and this is the main reason why this is so fast. It's 68 tooth spur gear. I haven't actually played around too much with the gearing, but to get that pinion mounted, this is what's left of the housing. So I had to cut some of that away. I had to cut some of the chassis away there, not too much, just enough to get clearance, and yeah, that's made it quite fast. Some of the other drivetrain mods there, the Tamiya prop shaft there with the drive cups, that's kind of essential as well. The plastic one, I've never really tested it, but I don't have much faith in it. I've already bent one of these. It bananaed on me. Not really sure why that happened. Could just be the power. Could have been a bit of chassis flex. I don't know. So that's the second one of those I'm on. The other thing that had to be changed to cope with power was the stock diffs. Now that's a stock one. It's all plastic. The gears inside are all plastic. Nice and light, and it'll cope perfectly well to a point. And I've experimented a little bit with this, but what I've actually ended up running is, I just pop this off. You can see here we've got a metal bevel gear, and also a diff. This is the diff from the Tamiya TT-02 gravel hound, those kind of kits. You can pick these up off eBay. You just need the metal parts bag and obviously the diff housings. You see this one's a bit dirty, it's been run. And this is a metal ring gear. Internal gears are metal, and this is certainly up to the job. The plastic one, as I say, it'll cope to a point. I know some people have modified them with a metal backing plate there to stop this ring gear flexing. I'm not sure if that's the reason why I ended up chewing up many bevel gears. It was a case of just playing around. I've tried just the TT-02 diff in the back and the plastic gear up front. That worked well for a while, but eventually under heavy braking it gave up. Perhaps a modification to it might have helped there, but essentially I just ended up running the two TT-02 diffs. They're a bit heavier, but they seem to be holding up no problem. They're not sealed, so if you're going to run diff oil, you're going to need to run some pretty thick diff oil. I think I've only got 30,000 weight in the front. I really need to run something thicker because they are leaking slowly. I have to rebuild them occasionally and top them up. I've heard over 100,000 weight doesn't leak so much. The other thing is you can pack them full of anti-wear grease. That should do the trick. I don't run anything other than an open diff in the back, so no fluid. But you will probably, if you're running a lot of power, that's a good setup. But you're going to want to run some heavy fluid, some heavy diff oil in the front. It'll just make it a little bit more stable under acceleration. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. As I say, I've only ran 2S lipo. I'm gearing up to run a 3S at some point. No rush. One of the things and the reason it's in bits at the moment is I upgraded from the stock dog bones to Tamiya's universal shafts. These are the type you assemble yourself, and they didn't last that long, to be honest. I've rebuilt them several times, but here's an example of what happens to them. Eventually the pin just won't stay in them, and no matter what I've done, using the the locking fluid, etc., to try and get the grub screws to stay tight and the pin to stay in, they work their way loose. I had a spectacular failure on the rear shafts where the pin started to work its way out and actually carved the wheel hub just about in half before it eventually got stuck. So that sort of shows you the amount of power that's going through this thing. The answer was quite simple, really. You can either go back to the dog bones, but you're going to lose a little bit of power to those, or you could use these. These are I'll bring these close in. These are Eagle Racing. These are really nice. So you can see here the pin is fully encapsulated, and these aren't going to come apart. So I've ran these in the back for quite a while. It took a while longer for the front ones to sort of fail, and these are replacements for the front shafts. So that's going to be going in, and then it should be pretty much bulletproof. Not too much to make your TT-02B quite the weapon. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to keep assembling this now and I'll get it running again. So that's the buggy back together again. There is one small detail, quite an important one that I didn't go over, so I'll cover that now. If you are swapping to the TT-02 metal bevel gear and diffs, you will find that the stock plastic one, which I have here, is slightly damaged. This is one I damaged earlier, but it's good enough for illustrating the point. This is a metal one from the TT-02, unused, brand new. If we compare them together, hopefully you can see that there is quite a difference in the height between this part the bevel gear. All you need to do is, this is not the hardest substance in the world. You just take a file and file that down. It does actually give you the opportunity to control the tightness of the mesh in the diff, which is quite good. I file it roughly down to this level, not quite, but then that's when you start playing around with the mesh in the diff, and you'll get a good mesh, and that's going to help those gears last. So yeah, as you can see, I've got a little hole cut in here. It's fairly minor, but it's letting a little air get into those cooling fins, which has got to help. One of the things I've done on this is, if you can hear that, that's Velcro along the edge of the chassis tub. I've just used some upholsterers Velcro. It's very cheap. You can pick it up on auction sites for next to nothing. The adhesive isn't going to be great, so you might want to use a little bit of glue just to help it bond to the side of the tub. Just trim it, and that'll help give your shell a nice tight fit to the body and help keep dirt, etc. out. I've wanted to mount my body nice and low, so I've actually trimmed it a little bit extra. These are the stock stickers from the kit. I've been a bit selective about what I used, so I'm quite pleased with the outcome there. So yeah, that's it. Ready to go. Can't wait to run it again. Excellent.